Welcome to the Burgundy and Gold Knuckleheads podcast. As always, sitting right over there with a smile on his face today is my main man, Reggie. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, baby? We back. We back.
We're on a roll. We're on a roll, man. Like butter.
Man, we disappeared for a minute and we go on a 2-game win streak. What's up with that?
Yeah. For those that didn't that have been missing us, yeah, we both happened to be out of town at the same time. And even with the technology we have today, the logistics made it a challenge to do a post game of the Bears game and a pre-game of the Packers game.
Yep.
But
we back, baby.
Where we sit today, we're won both of those games. So
yeah, we're back, and we promise not to leave y'all again like this. Okay, we will make a promise not to try to do this to y'all again because we back, baby.
Yeah.
But we're back in a good way too. Your boys are back, and Washington is back, man. We like I said, we go on a 2-game win streak, man. And if I'm honest, Ken, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure how to handle this, man. Well, got a 2-game win streak, brother. I don't even know. Like
the listeners about it. Yeah, the listeners don't even know what to do because neither one of us are grumpy. This isn't the grumpy knuckleheads, if we do this, fire that person and bench this person. Right now we're like, we could play better, but we got the win, right? Especially after the Bears game, right? The Bears game you're not going to see too many wins that are uglier than the win we got against the Bears. But now that we're 10 days removed and another win on top of that, yeah, that's water under the bridge, right?
Well, it's funny you say that because I did a Twitter poll, right? And I had asked the question about the after the Bulls game. I mean, the Chicago Bears game. I did a poll and I said, we got the W. I said, but did the win feel like a loss or is it a win's win? And the majority of the votes came in that wins win. We didn't get to touch on it a little bit. My feeling walking away from the game was I felt dirty. It was like it was a win, but it felt like a loss. But again, to your point, we're 10 days removed from that. We host the Green Bay Packers, and we ended up beating them. Man, I mean, for some reason, we played the Packers tough. I don't know what it is about Aaron Rodgers and playing our team, but we played them tough, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty win. It was probably a good team win because I think there was something that showed up on all phases of the game. Special teams had a play. Obviously, offensively, they made some plays, and defensively, they made some plays. So it was probably one of our most complete games we've had in I want to say years. I want to say years, Ken. I mean,
that might be a little strong, but it was overall. Like I said, we can definitely find holes and problems and room for improvement across the board on this, but it was a team win.
It certainly was a team win for sure.
Yeah, it was, and that's what you'd like to see. I mean, you don't like. Let me pause and say I'll take a win as a win, just like the Bears win, right? But you like to see our offense under Heineke started slow, but kind of got into a rhythm, and they got moving the ball. The offensive line started blocking, and we were running the ball. It was a different game after about the first quarter, and you weren't frustrated at the offense. Yes, we weren't scoring as much as ideally what we'd like to, but
who wasn't frustrated?
You saw movement.
Wait, who wasn't frustrated?
Up until about we were frustrated up until about mid-second quarter. Then we started scoring and moving the ball. I mean, we came out right away in the second half, took the ball, went down, scored, and that gave us the lead at that point, correct?
Listen, I was worried. I don't know who wasn't worried. You're talking about.
I didn't say I wasn't worried. I didn't say I said we weren't worried from the aspect that our offense was totally stagnant, like it had been the previous, Chicago and the game before. And just the offense was doing nothing to where now we're moving the ball. It wasn't fluid. Don't get me wrong, but
Man, there was one point Taylor Heineke he was 0 for something with no yards.
Exactly. That was the first quarter. He was 1 for 7 at one point, and then he went 19 of 26 after that. Right, huge difference. Started out ice cold. Not only I think he might have thrown one ball away, but he was not accurate at all. Right,
homeboy was struggling. Homeboy was struggling, man.
He definitely was.
But I'm not here to bash him. I'm not gonna do a Ken on him. I'm not gonna do a Ken on him.
Hey, I was realistic during the game. I said along the way, I said, this is no better than what we were seeing from Wentz at first, right? But on the other side, I don't want to just focus on Heineke or whatever. But on the other side, Aaron Rodgers was held to, what was it, 194 yards passing, under 200 yards. I don't think that happens very much.
No, man. And listen, I got AA Ron as my starting quarterback on both of my fantasy teams. So I understand what Aaron Rodgers' performance has been like thus far this season.
Right.
But I can't tell you in many circumstances where I would have figured Aaron Rodgers would not go a full game and not throw for 200 yards, man. Even without Devontae Adams and all pro and Pro Bowl receivers, you couldn't have never convinced me that Aaron Rodgers was come out of a game throwing under 200 yards, right?
It's especially when I tell you that they're only going to rush the ball 12 times.
Yeah, 12 times for 38 yards.
Yeah, 12 times. And even with 12 times, he still didn't throw for 200 yards. Just you almost can't believe it. And to me, our offensive line did a decent job. I'm sorry, our defensive line did a decent job putting pressure on him, but it wasn't an enormous amount of pressure. I got to give credit to the secondary, who up to this point of the season has gotten a lot of criticism. If there's been anything given on kudos on the Washington defense, it's been the defensive line. We know they've had a couple games where they had a lot of pressures and some sacks, and the secondary all of a sudden, they be playing zone. We've complained about their zone and all, but overall they put it together today.
Again, defensively they did fine. I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers, I'm not going to take away from our guys, but Aaron Rodgers' wide receivers didn't help him out. Right, there were times that the ball
a couple
hit
drops
him in the hands. Yep. Yeah, there were times that his wide receivers did not do him a solid and help him out when he was trying to escape some pressure and move around the pocket and do some things. But that being said, I'm not going to take away from our defense either. To your point, I'm not sure what has changed on our defensive side. They've improved. You can't ignore the fact that our defense is playing better. I don't know if just something simple as William Jackson.
I was going to say
not playing, and now they put St. Juice on the outside, and they've moved Wild Goose into the slot corner.
What a great football name, Wild Goose.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we wasn't wild about Mr. Wild Goose the first game he played because he came in the game and got some pass interference calls, and we're like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
But nonetheless, he's the moment doesn't seem too big for him. He's gotten his feet under him the past few weeks. And with Fuller on the outside, Wild Goose in the slot, and St. Juice on the other outside, man, for some reason, those guys are playing well. And I don't know if that has helped the pass rush get there because they're doing a lot better in coverage or what. But, man, something has clicked. Something has changed. And I'm here for it, man.
And one of the other, and even with that, one of the biggest things I noticed the last 2 weeks versus the previous, 4 weeks, or 5 weeks, whatever it was, is the receivers. And granted, I understand the receivers we're playing against right now, the past 2 games with Chicago and Green Bay aren't at the level of some teams' receivers, but they're not wide open when we're playing zone. Whether we're playing the zone, and I think some of it is we are playing the zone better, and I do believe that part of it is the receivers aren't as skilled to find those open spots. It's a combination, but they're doing things right. Started to see today, especially on a handful of plays, started seeing Jamin Davis kind of get into a groove, using his speed, some good tackles. Starting to play at the level of the player that we were anticipating he would be as a number 1 draft pick.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot of negative to say again about the defense. I think we were all shocked watching the game today when Fox put up that stat that we were number 1 in quarterback hits and number 1 in pressure rate.
Right.
I think as fans that have watched all of our games can sit back and say, as we talked about a few minutes ago, that there's been an improvement and there's been a change. But to tell me that we're first in rush rate and number 1 in quarterback pressure, right. I didn't see that coming, man. But I'm glad to see that. Glad to see that, and I hope that continues when Chase Young comes back, because that was one of the knocks on Chase, man. He was out there freelancing and stuff, and whether he's trying to get personal stats or trying to get highlight reels, but he wasn't playing undisciplined football, and it was hurting the defense. So I hope that his time away and seeing what the William Smith, James Smith Jr. and James Smith Jr. Smith, I'm tearing that boy's name up, man. He's got 3 names. Ken, what is his name?
James Smith, you got it.
James Smith Williams. Damn, there we go.
There you go.
James Smith Williams. And by the way, that's all one guy. And then Casey Toohill. Those guys. Man, those guys are playing well opposite of Montez Sweat, and the defensive front throwing with Payne and Sweat is playing as a defensive unit. And I just pray and hope that Chase Young comes in and just continue that and don't get out there and trying to play hero ball and get undisciplined. So
right.
But again, we'll get into that later when the time comes. But right now, we want to give everybody their flowers, man. The defense played well, and your boy Taylor Heinicke. To your point, I'm not a huge fan of Taylor, but I got to give him credit, man. The team rallied around this kid, man. And once again, it's the little bitty things that he does that wills this team to victory. He scares you sometimes.
Absolutely.
As he throwing some balls, he floats them up there, or he's throwing balls, just chunking them up there and kind of like with his eyes closed and just hoping that our guys get it. But when it works, it works. And kudos to him, man. Hats off to my man, Taylor Heinicke.
I think, if I'm looking at it next week or into the, at least for 3 more games, right? We know Wentz is going to be out 4 games,
at least 3 more,
with his hand injury. I'd like to see maybe, I don't know how to put it. Maybe give him a running play, a design Heinicke running play, because it seems like the more, I'm not going to say adversity, but as the pressure winds up, Heinicke, I'm going to say raises to the occasion. I'm not going to say he's like some kind of superstar or anything like that, right? Heinicke is Heinicke, so don't read more into that what it is. But once he gets beat around and pushed around a little bit, I'm not talking about under pressure like crazy, but once he starts getting dirty and sweaty, all of a sudden his game gets better.
I hear you, but no, I don't want to put him in no adversity, man. That dude start throwing some balls around. Let's just let him do it.
I'm not saying adversity. I'm saying get him involved of some sort of rolling him out, making him move, get him breaking a sweat. If he has to run one and slide, not taking a hit, but slide, let him get a little bit dirty, a little bit sweaty by our choice, not by the other team's choice, or by the defense's choice. And just, it seems like it gets him focused and does better. He starts making those plays that we like to see from Heinicke.
For sure.
That's just my opinion.
Got a little nugget for you.
Go ahead.
A little nugget for you. A little Taylor Heinicke nugget.
Uh-oh.
So by virtue of today's game, with Taylor playing 60% of the snaps, and we got the W.
Mm-hmm.
today's game put an extra $125,000 into his bank account.
Oh man, where's my cha-ching sound account?
See what I did there? Give you a little nugget, man, a little Taylor Heiner nugget.
I like it. So, I like it. Good, kudos to Heineke. Drinks are on you
that's
tonight
right,
at the bar.
Right. One thing that I concern is not the right word. Curious, find interesting, maybe is a better way to say it, is J.D. McKissic. J.D. McKissic was essentially our MVP last year, right? As he was going,
him
in our offense last year. Our offense was going as a result of J.D. McKissic and Taylor, right? He turned down the money, the opportunity to go to Buffalo to come back to Washington, and but man, they're not using him very much. And J.D. McKissic can do everything that Antonio Gibson could do. They utilize Antonio today a lot on the outside as a receiver, doing some things, which was kind of a role for JD. And I don't know that by Brian Robinson getting the tough yardage, they're moving JD around and doing some different things. But man, I'm not JD, Antonio Gibson around. I don't know if that's going to take away some snaps from JD McKissic, but the guy can still play, Ken. The guy can make some plays. And I started
to say something about that, about what you're talking about during the game. It was third quarter, early fourth quarter. And I was like, man, he's in there for a few plays, but I don't know what the stats were directly on him, but he had 1 or 2 runs and 1 or 2 catches.
Not a lot.
And that was
Not
it.
a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring this guy back. You obviously wanted him. They wanted him to be a part of the team.
Right.
And I don't understand necessarily what his role is. And again, I'm not trying to nitpick the win here. It's just something that I found curious, that even through the first 7 games, we've not seen a lot of JD McKissic, man. And I don't know why that is. That's to me, because that's the kind of guy you gotta scheme to get the ball in his hand to make plays, right? He's not in there on every snap. So when he's around, you got to be able to try to get the ball to him and let him be a playmaker.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, him and Terry were the only 2 what we would call weapons last year.
A little bit of Logan Thomas, right, until he got hurt.
Yeah. But I mean, throughout the entire season, those were the 2 guys. And all of a sudden, earlier in the season, and we saw it again today. There was like a 3 or 4 game gap where we didn't see or didn't feel like the team was using Curtis Samuel. But today we started to see more of him in the passing game. He had a couple runs, and you throw in McKissic and Terry. Terry had some impactful plays today. You start seeing what this offense can be. Heineke didn't run today, but there's another tool that can be used in certain situations. Let's not do that in obvious situations, but again,
a little wrinkle in the offense.
Yeah, it's keeping the defense on their toes, making them play honest football. And when you have a defense doing that, your receivers or running backs have a chance to beat somebody, as opposed to being double covered from Terry as perspective. If I only have a running game, then I know they're going to be packing the line, stacking the line, and working to stop us there. So anyway.
So speaking of that, Terry and Curtis both had 5 receptions. Terry was 73 yards and Curtis Samuels was 53 yards. But Curtis had some design runs as well. But you again, getting the ball into their hands and letting those guys be playmakers. Clearly, Taylor likes to throw the ball to Terry, and that's good to see, right? Terry's your big money guy, man. Terry's a dog. Terry's a baller. I think they should make a conscious effort to try to give him the ball. Don't force it, but certainly call plays to try to get him open and get him in the game early. I think when Terry's making plays, I think that helps the offense, because then now they're worried about Terry. That probably helps Curtis Samuel and those types of things. But I like the fact that those guys were both involved in the game. Unlike going all the way back to week 1 against Jacksonville, it seemed to be the Curtis Samuel show. Today it was a little bit of Curtis Samuel and Terry, and then they sprinkled in a little bit of Antonio Gibson. So we had playmakers all over the field, eating today and getting a little bit of this, contributing to the win today, and that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Again, spreading the ball around, and I mean, because we still have a lot of the season to go, and some of these guys are going to get injured. Might be for a week, might be for a season. I don't want to put any bad juju in the air, but it's just part of football. So if somebody does get injured, we don't want to feel. I mean, if it's Terry, we're definitely going to feel like a huge loss, right? As skilled as he is, but you want to have confidence that your other players are able to step up, and I think we feel that across the board with one injury here or one injury there on offense, to where last year we didn't have the depth that we have.
Agreed.
But even so, I mean, the players, we're without Dotson right now, and he needs to get healthy and get back in. And again, there's another weapon for us.
Yeah, and it's always seemed to be something, man. With Logan Thomas being out today, I was excited to see Cole Turner get the start, and he goes out early with a concussion, and it's just like, come on, man, can we catch a break with being full strength, and because again, I wanted to see Cole Turner. I think the kid can be special. Taylor overthrew him in the end zone, and of course he threw the ball high. I think on the one where he reached back and with the defender on top of him, and he hits his head on the ground. Hopefully he's out. He's not out for any extended amount of time, and he's back and ready to play next week against Indy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another good thing to see was what will seem to be a commitment to the run game. I don't know if that was due to the fact that Taylor was the QB, or it was just a conscious effort to run the ball against the Green Bay defense.
Probably a combination, because Green Bay's run D wasn't great, and again, this is Taylor just for 1 week working with the starting team. Let's kind of get him. If we don't have to force him into a role where he has to win the game, then we'll be good with Taylor. But for him to be leaning on him hard, it's not where Washington wants to be.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor threw for 30. He had 33 attempts. God, I'm just struggling today. He had 33 attempts, which is about where I would want him to be. But between Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson, they had 30 carries for 132 yards. That's a 4-yard average, 4.4 yard average. You get 30 carries, 130 yards out of your running back, man. That's a good day. That's a good day. And so clearly,
you throw in McKissick and Samuels, and you had 36 runs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So to your point, they definitely committed to the run today.
Yeah. So I'm good with that. I'm good. It's working. It was able to keep Green Bay a little bit off balance, a little mixture of running and a little bit of throwing, and a couple of wrinkles there with Curtis Samuel in the backfield, man. And it was good. Again, it goes back to what we talked about early on, is that all three phases of the team contributed to today's victory.
Yeah. I don't want to go crazy on stats here. One last thing on the defense, that especially last year and early on this year was kind of biting us in the butt on third down. Green Bay, third down or fourth down, because they went for it once on fourth down. They were 0 for 8 on third or fourth down today. So
I like it. I like it.
How many years ago was it that Washington had a stat like that? Because normally we know that Washington had a problem where they were 50% roughly allowing teams to complete and get a first down on third down. Kind of jumbling my words there, but they were able to pick up the first down when it was third and however many yards, too many times.
And a team like Green Bay would come in and convert at an even higher rate because of the potency of their offense. They come in against a bad third down conversion team, defensive team like us, and then they convert at an even higher rate. But I want to say this too, Ken, and we can get back to some other stats if you want to do that. But what I don't like is as fans, we all have our opinions about the players. And what I don't like is someone talking about one player doesn't mean you have to hate the other. Case in point, I can like Carson Wentz, but it doesn't mean I don't like Taylor Heineke. You can like Taylor Heineke, and that doesn't mean that you're disliking Carson Wentz. And when I decide to call out myself or anyone included, when you start to say, I like Taylor, but he has limitations, those are facts, man. Those aren't necessary opinions. And by saying that you have some concerns about a guy and then comparing him to a lot of these quarterbacks in the league have some shortcomings. And whether it's their height, whether it's their arm strength, whether it's the mobility, there's typically always seems to be something. There's very rare do you have a guy that you have no concerns about, right? Or, some guys are better with accuracy, arm strength, long ball, short game, whatever it may be. And I've always said that I would have preferred Carson Wentz over Taylor Heineke because I saw what Taylor gave us last year. And I wanted to see what Carson Wentz, who by all accounts was a better talented quarterback than Taylor Heineke. And he gave you a little bit more with the height, the arm strength, and the guy had some mobility. But you can look and see that Carson Wentz has lost a little mobility. And I think he still struggles in our offense. He doesn't know the offense. But it doesn't mean I don't like Taylor Heineke. I don't know what it is, but, man, Taylor Heineke does something different for our team. And it was on display today. But to say that the guy doesn't have the strongest arm, he leaves plays on the field because he can't throw the deep ball, but those are facts. Those are facts, Ken. And
I agree.
And I'm gonna ride and I'm gonna support Taylor Heineke as much as I can. But I still have concerns about what Taylor Heineke gives us as a quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, long term, I agree. Long term, I absolutely agree. Yes, yeah,
absolutely. So to talk about one compared to the others, because Carson Wentz certainly had his warts. We've exhausted that over the first 5-6 weeks of this season already, and we know that he has some warts. But there were some other things that was happening with the team as well that made us get into a debate, us and fans alike.
Sure.
But when they had to go to Taylor Heineke, and now everyone's like, oh, you didn't want to be with, you wasn't a Taylor Heineke fan. And so now all of a sudden don't get on the bandwagon. I'm not getting on the bandwagon because guess what? The things that concerned me about Taylor Heineke then concern me now.
Sure.
He threw some balls today that hung in the air. Didn't have the zip on them. And it was
and they're not going to, right? They're
I understand.
Not going to. Right.
So when he throws the ball, if that ball doesn't get there, we saw today that one of the things that plagued him last year, which was his hesitation to throw the ball. And whether he's not confident in his arm strength, he hesitates 1 second too long. And had he thrown it the first time, but then he hesitates and it gives the defender a chance to now close the gap and get in and knock the ball down. We saw that several times today. Yeah. That's just, if you want to say Carson holds onto the ball, Taylor holds on to the ball and he doesn't throw it
in a different way. Yeah.
In a different kind of way. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So he has his warts. Speaking of Taylor, but I'm not knocking the guy. That's just what it is. But he's quarterbacking. I acknowledge personally, man, the guy he's got an it factor about him. The team rallies around him. You can see the excitement on the sideline with the players when he won the game. I saw some post-game footage. You can tell they just love Taylor Heineke.
Right.
But
anybody who's watched me at the bar, if you've listened to enough of these podcasts, you know I love Taylor Heineke. Is he the quarterback I want to ride with for the next 4 or 5 years? No, he's not. What do I want him on my team in the role that he's had this year where he's a backup? Absolutely, I would have no problem with him being there. But if somehow Washington doesn't have a good year and we have the opportunity to pick a stud quarterback in the first round next year, I'm picking him. And so while you hear me root and cheer and probably overemphasize the positives that Taylor does because I'm a fan of his, we are both realistic on he's not somebody that you're going to put a team on his back and take you to the playoffs or the Super Bowl. He can do it in moments, right? But throughout an entire season or even for an entire game, you don't want that. Is it, the last 3 minutes in the fourth quarter and he has to take you down for a drive? Maybe he can do it, but I'm not anticipating he's going to be scoring. We're playing Kansas City and we got to ride him to score 35, 37 points. That's not what I want from Taylor.
Probably not going to get that
he's not that guy. Correct.
And so to that point, man, and I say that because I've not gotten into it with anybody on social media about it, but I'm on social media and I see it's like you can't say anything about Taylor Heineke for someone thinking you don't like the guy. And the same thing about Carson, and it happened with Carson Wentz as well. Right, all the Carson Wentz haters out there was waiting for Taylor Heineke, and as soon as Taylor Heineke get in the game, and he got off to a slow start, and I can see all the Taylor Heineke haters out there. It's like, come on, man! It's like we seem to never rally around our guys. It's like I got to prove that I'm right. I got to hate and talk bad about the other guy.
Right.
It's like, come on, guys, let's just support the guys that are wearing the burgundy and gold, man. Just support him. Taylor Heineke's got his issues, but you know what? For the next 4 weeks, he's our guy. So let's hope that he has learned and he has improved his craft, and that over the next 4 weeks, we're going to see a different Taylor Heineke than what we saw last year. Now, it was scary the first half. You could say it was rust. You could say some butterflies or whatever the case may be. But when the bullets start flying, but it seemed like in the second half, he seemed to calm down and he got back to being the Taylor Heineke that people fall in love with. But I will be remiss to sit here and say I still didn't see some of the things that plagued him as a starter last year. But
you
guess
did
what?
Or did not?
I did.
Yes.
Meaning holding on to the ball, or when he was throwing the out routes to some of our guys, the ball just kind of floated there as opposed to getting the zip there on our guys. Right. Again, where the receiver flashes in front of him and he hesitates to throw it, and then he has some accuracy issues early on where he threw the ball behind our guys, allowing the trailing defender to knock the ball down. But you know what? But come next week in Indy, let's go Taylor. The week after that against Minnesota, let's go Taylor. Monday night, we're going to Philly. Let's go Taylor. I'm with him. Right. I'm right with him, man. So let's go. But to sit here and say that he's got some issues, that's not hating on the guy. It's just fact. And to your point, if we get a chance to draft a guy, let's go get him, man. Let's go get him and try to bring Taylor back. I don't think he comes back next year.
I'm not trying to run anybody out of Washington at this point.
Right.
Now, when we look at the end of the season and we see the totality of the season's work by anybody, you and I can sit down and talk about every position, every coach, everybody across the board and evaluate it. Up to this point, we've seen more bad than good. That's why we have a sub 500 winning percentage. But the last couple weeks defensively, we've seen improvement. If Taylor's the spark that the offense needs to be a little more consistent, then kudos to Taylor and everybody else that's rallying around him.
For sure.
And we'll see if that continues, right? Sometimes you get somebody new in that gets that spark, but it's just that it's a spark. It's not sustained. And we'll see if that happens this year or not with Taylor. And
we'll know the next 4 weeks, because to me, technically, all of those games should be pretty good, right? I mean, you got Indy. That's a game that we should be able to compete with. Minnesota. I don't know what Minnesota's. I think the record is pretty good, but I don't know that they are as good as their record. But nonetheless, hey, Agreed. They are who they are. So, but that's a home game for us. So let's say we go Minnesota, and then there's the Monday night game against Philly, and we know that's going to be a crazy environment in Philly on a Monday night game. I don't know who we play after Philly, but then not long after that, we play Houston, and then we still got Atlanta. Right. I mean, anything can happen here, right? So come on, Taylor. I mean, give us what you got, brother, and let's ride.
Well, even when you talked about the first few games, and even when we go into Philly, I know there's a lot of moving parts for Philly and for Washington 3 weeks from now, but the last couple weeks, our offensive line isn't great, but it's better than when we played Philly, right? They just we had no offensive line. It was just a four tackling dummies that they had to go over or around to get to Wentz that game. And defensively, we were giving up some big plays, and our defense is playing better. So on both sides, we are playing better. We'll see if we can sustain this. And Philly's also a better team. So you're gonna have to not only sustain it, but you're gonna have to step up your game a little bit come Philly time. I'm not trying to get too far down the road, but what we've seen the last couple of weeks is promising. That
I agree.
That we're better. That we're better than we were the first 3 or 4 weeks. And
as it says,
time will tell.
As it says, the win streak continues with 2-0.
The win streak. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
So, well, that's all I got, brother.
Yeah, that's. I think we've pretty much covered. Covered this game and some ideas of where we're going to look forward over the next couple games. But yeah. If you don't have anything else, until next time. Peace out, knuckleheads.
Out, baby. Peace out. We'll see you next week. Win streak continues. 3-0.
Let's get it.